energy and battery energy storage systems moratorium. So, the summary of it is we're supposed to review the local law number 1 of the year 2024, the local law enacting a moratorium on commercial solar, wind energy and battery energy storage systems. So do we have any input on this? John, you want to come up to the table so we can hear you?
Well, I guess the only info I have on it is we would have done this a lot sooner, but we were under the impression that our substation couldn't handle any more power. That's why we didn't take steps sooner. We opted out back 2 or 3 months ago, where we were in and we got 1, 2, 3, 4 solar farms in Whitehall already. And we were the first ones in the county to get it, and the towns have been off the beating compared to what everybody else is doing financially. So we opted out not knowing that, or knowing under the impression that there couldn't be any more because the substation couldn't handle it. But now we're getting flooded with property being bought up, and automatically, I think, golf course was purchased on County 12, and the owners come to the county with their, I don't know what the fancy word is, what we're gonna do with the property. The new owners are already painting the leasing out the solar. So that's why we wanna go to moratorium. And we wanna get, right now, it's a 6-month. I don't know if we're gonna switch to a 1 year. We have an organization of the public that is going to hand the town board what they feel would be a local law for solar. And then, of course, if the town board to accept it or go through it or whatever. And they come to me last week wanting to know if we could extend it to 1 year. If we got the public hearing for that, does that say 6 months?
It says right now in effect for 6 months and maybe extended, rescinded, or removed by local law. So you can extend it
By local law.
by local law, you can pull it back, you can modify it as the case may be.
I guess that's a summary of why we want to have the moratorium. Because we learned from previous, and we've got to do something different.
Does the, I guess is the town substation, so are you at a point where it's getting critical as far as what the substation can handle?
Yes, we were told by NIMO that the substation couldn't handle it. But now what I'm understanding is if you got enough money, that substation could handle it. That's layman's terms. But would it be more? Question for you, that moratorium stays right now 6 months, or if we go through another local law to extend it?
Mhm.
And would it be easier to go for 12 months?
Well, the thing that with your public hearing, you know, the whole point of the public hearing is to get input by the public. So the fact that you have this as it's presented right now, the whole point of a public hearing is that based on public comment, if you want to make a change to it, you have the ability to do it. You're not bound at this point by passing it in its current form. If that's your question. So if after public comment, you feel you want to make it for a year, you can do that. You know, you can make changes. Obviously, you know, Erica is your town attorney. She would be the one at the end to make a final decision, but there's nothing preventing you, you know, the fact that you've given us this to review, there's nothing preventing you from making changes after the public hearing.
And your intent is to develop a new law with regard to the siting and establishment. So from the town perspective, you think it's gonna take us longer than 6 months? You might want to consider that too. Like if you know you're gonna extend beyond that time in order to establish this local law regarding your siting, you might wanna just consider that.
But basically, if that's what you're gonna do, you know, it's a question of passing one now and having 12 months to deal with it. As opposed to in its current form, yes, you can extend it, then you're gonna have to go through the process again as far as passing a new local law and public hearing and whatnot. To do the extension.
Okay,
I think I just want to see. Anything. Usually I know these, I see somewhere that it's gonna be, you know, another extension of just 6 months, because it's usually. I don't.
See that. Oh, yeah, actually, you're right, section two.
Section 2. Right now, as it stands, at least the law limits you to basically only another 6-month extension in its current form. So you'd only have a year to deal with it, whereas you could change it to the moratoriums a year, subject to further extension.
okay, right now, we only have 1 year, the way that's written.
Well, you have 6 months
And then we
and the
got-
ability to extend it another 6 months, but you're limited now to one 6-month extension.
And if we extend it, we gotta go through this whole thing again.
Correct.
Okay. Understand.
John, you want that?
So John, just one other thing to point out, as you know, a lot of the large scale renewable energy is through forests and in smaller communities are by local law. But in between that, Department of State, has a lot of input in terms of local laws that they think are a runaround zoning, et cetera. So what we have been told by Department of State on moratoriums is that as a community, so long as you can show that you are actively following up and pursuing what your regulations might be. In other words, what the state doesn't want to see is a runaround by enacting a moratorium to keep solar companies from coming in. They want to see activity. To my knowledge, anything over a year in terms of a moratorium is going to get heavy scrutiny by Department of State. So as long as you're showing that you're actively doing something the first 6 months, they're not likely to object to an extension for a second 6 months, but they are likely to object beyond that.
Yeah, that term setting is very important.
Okay. That is the Department of State.
Correct.
Any other questions for John? Any other discussion?
I guess, in your opinion, would it be better showing the Department of State doing 6 months in addition or 12 months? And we gotta show somewhere when they ask that there's work throughout the complete 12 months.
I don't think it'll make a difference from their perspective. I mean, if you can get what you need to get done in 6 months, it shows that you've tried to do it. If you can't get done, they're unlikely to object to another 6 months. It's just.
If you're saying a
beyond
year,
that,
chances
yeah.
are they're really gonna look hard at an extension.
Extended after a year or
Correct.
in that first year.
Right, and that first, if you ask for a year moratorium, they're pretty much gonna expect whatever you're gonna do is gonna get done within that year, and they're probably not gonna be real keen on giving you more time, whereas if you start with 6 months and you show progress, then they're not going to, they're really not gonna say much of anything about an extension.
Yeah, the reality is they are somewhat limited in terms of what actions they can actually take, but it's more to protect you as a municipality because that leaves solar companies more able to litigate, let's put it that way.
Right.
And that's what you want to avoid.
Erica's familiar with that. She brought that up a couple of times. Yeah.
Even though we're attorneys, we try to avoid litigation at all costs.
And from my recollection, the other community that we saw a similar local law from was 6 months as well. Yeah, that was last year.
Here with 6 months.
They just started it. I'm not sure if it was even that. So
Well, what has my committee in White Hall, they got a. Who's it calls information? Who's it calls is going for a year. And when they read that, then they called me, well, can we raise ours to a year?
As I said, I think that's obviously gonna be a discussion with your board and, you know, Eric will have to kind of recommendation one way or the other, like you said, kind of have pros and cons. The pros is you start with 6 months, an extension is probably not going to be problematic. If you start at a year and you haven't got it done, then there's probably going to be a bigger issue.
Now, after that year, if there's nothing done, the town board can go back to what we have now.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any action that we need to take?
I would make a motion to submit our local concerns.
We need for a second.
That would be you.
That would be.
I don't even choice on that one.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, that would be second. Okay, all in favor with that?
Well, any further discussion?
Any further discussion? Okay.
No, now you call it.
What's my next step? Concerned with this,
Well, you have your public hearing scheduled, I believe, correct?
17.
Okay, you have your public hearing. You know, as we see in the county, if you think you're gonna leave it as is, you can then vote on it that night. So I'll leave that to Erica to decide what your best course of action is. If there's any changes you want to make, you can make the changes, and then you just have to make sure that the town board has the revised edition within the standard required period of time, then you can pass it then.
Pamela will write you a letter regarding this action, your 239 review, and then do you send along the final action request, or is that something that?
Oh, the fine, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't send it along, but
Okay.
I'm actually thinking about it because they're not coming back on it.
So then it's just we request that you just update us on what your ultimate action was.
Okay, but I can proceed on with the public. hearing.
Absolutely. I think you actually have to have an official vote.
Okay,
Oh, all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that would just be given that.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Oh, we're good. Thank you. Okay, anything else?
Yeah,
Yes.
Something before- Yes.
yeah,
Well, careful because it's a special meeting, so you can only discuss what was on the agenda, special meeting.
or
That's-
notifications and administration.
Yeah, it's an administration.
Administration.
Well, I guess depending on what the administration will just give a report, I'm sure that's fine, but it's said, otherwise you're only supposed to act, it's special, meeting, you only act
Action required.
what's on the agenda.
So
That's
it's,
what's noticed.
yeah, basically, I just want to inform everybody that we're looking at some reappointment changes to the planning agency. This will actually go through the ag plan committee and then ultimately to the final board. But as we go through the regular review process, Deb Donahue has basically acted on behalf of DPW to review projects for pertinence to anything that would impact the county. Also, we regularly, if we think that there might be an effect through public safety, through soil or water, et cetera, we send those out for review before they come to planning agency. Deb Donahue is going to step down from the planning agency, and Tim Hardy has volunteered to step up. So again, this request will be made at ag planning and then go to full board for confirmation. We're just letting the planning agency know that that change will be coming.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anything else?
I just included the annual report, which will go to private planning as well.
Okay.
It's required by law, so every year. So you can take a look at it if you're.
So this is the annual report.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And bear with me while I learn about this new.
You too.
It is odd to have a committee that quorums too. That's funny.
So any other comments or discussion? Okay, and can we just adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Take motion to adjourn.
Doesn't need a second.
All right.
Doesn't need a second.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for coming.